Since this is your show, did you want me to begin the conversation? Is that disrespectful?
Absolutely not. You better introduce us. We
Well,
are live.
listen. It came to me in a dream because I dream a lot. I often have like these weird epiphanies first thing in the morning. It's the craziest thing.
I love
But
it.
one of the ones that came to me recently was that you need to be the one that we focus on for a change. I love watching your show,
Thank
Shine with
you.
Tish, and Workplace Wednesdays, and I don't know how many shows you have, but nonetheless, I find you very captivating
So
and
sweet.
insightful.
Thank you.
I know that you recently got your new award in the Marquise Who's Who. So I just thought it was really good timing. But I wanted to talk about the future.
Yes.
It's on our doorstep with the technology explosion we are seeing all around us, from AI to robotics to space exploration. The future is still bright and advancing, but with a lot of uncertainty. So, with technology aside, what is the future of people? And I
Oh,
wanted to, I want to introduce you like you introduce everybody else, and
mhm.
everybody knows who you are, but I'm doing it. We flipped the script with our very own Tish Hodge,
Woo woo!
our HR expert, founder of the Shine Institute, Forbes contributor, executive coach, and public speaker. And now we can add who's who, which we already knew.
Yes.
But that was my idea, and that's why we are sitting here today. So, are you ready for your first question?
I am ready.
Okay.
Seatbelt. I'm ready to go.
With the changing world, innovation is key. How do you think companies can support innovation in the people that have to invent it?
Oh man, I did some homework, and one of the things we need to remember is behind every invention, behind every experiment, there is a person.
Yes.
There is a person, and that person wouldn't be able to get the equation, produce that thought if they didn't have access to professional development. It may
Mhm.
not necessarily be the traditional, and I hope we get to talk about that degree route, but definitely, leaders can support through professional development and through providing balance. Just like any other part of the body, the brain can go into overload. With AI, it's great, it's sexy right now, but we still have to balance. We still have to take care of our people. So, of course, giving them the access, the resources, the courses, seminars, master classes, so that they can continue to feed their thought juices and come up with those exciting innovations for whether it's NASA or the Naval Academy, that they are able to do all those things, but still able to balance providing professional development opportunities in conjunction with making sure that mental health is still maintained. Coming out of the pandemic, we had a lot going on there. So providing all the things, whether it's a class, whether it is, there's so many. It doesn't have to be the traditional route, so that those individuals can have the ability to tap in. I myself am back in school. I'm taking the Cornell course just to continue to keep that sword sharpened. We have to continue that professional development, but yet balancing it for that reprieve. Because if it's all work and no play, it's at the end of the day, the product's not going to be good.
Well, I'm with you. I think this world, reaps and sows, and they reap just all the beautiful things about employees, and they kind of leave the rest on the ground. And I don't like thinking about people as just, resources for us to reap.
That's
So I
right.
always like myself, and, I think that if you watered me, like instead of cutting me off and putting me in a vase,
Yes. Oh, yes.
instead just plant me in a pot and water me every day. That would be great. So that's kind of how I think about people in the workplace. They're just like plants. So we shouldn't just cut them off and put them in a bus, but then just keep them going and keep them growing. So I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, now let's move on. This is one of my favorite discussions, and I probably bring it up maybe once. Well, I used to bring it up more often because it's getting I talk about it too much. So with the famous crab in the barrel syndrome,
Mhm,
being part of American culture,
mhm,
or lack of culture, but
mhm,
I won't get on that.
mhm.
How can leadership support people supporting one another's creative and inventive skills? Especially in this competitive workplace. We are right outside DC, me and you, Trish.
Yeah,
So you talk about competition. We live in it. We live in the smack
absolutely.
dab.
Yes.
So, crab in the barrel, we're holding each other back.
Yes. So
What do you
to
have to say
answer
about
that,
that?
I love the question because you see it all too often. You see it all too often. Going back to the eCornell class that I'm in, and I'm going to answer the question in terms of what leaders can do. One of the questions was, when were you subject to inequity? And one of the classmates mentioned being at a conference and not being in a particular organization, and they let certain individuals in these organizations in first, but she wasn't in the organization, but her friends who were in the organization, they finally were able to feel the cut because their friend wouldn't been let in to the event early. So they waited with her and came in general admission when everybody else came in. But I thought it was so interesting that everybody has a story of not being watered and groomed for success. But leaders can, number one, establish goals. When you make it plain, write the vision and make it plain, there's no question what the final destination is. If we put those coordinates in our GPS, we know where we should be arriving. So we want to make sure that those leaders establish goals. Not only having goals and having that on the wall, we want to make sure that we measure them for performance reviews. This was the goal. Did you support your mentee? Did you make sure that you participated in the celebration of nations? What was the one new thing that you did outside of your comfort zone? So establishing those goals, measuring them during the performance review, but at the end, reward success. What is measured is what matters. If an individual know, I need to, I spoke at the Minnesota Wisconsin Joint Transportation annual meeting back in October. And one lady, I was so proud of her. It was awesome. It was at the end. She had the question that everybody wanted to hear. And she said, what if your company just don't want to do it? What do you do then? Right? And I said, that company needs to decide what their bottom line is going to look like. Because at the end of the day, if you don't get on board, you're going to be like the blockbuster.
Yeah.
People are not going to want to work for you. And then it was like popcorn. Then another young lady jumped in and she said, we need to learn from the youth and the children. They don't see some of the biases that we see. Even though everybody has some amount of bias, it's still important that we can learn from the little ones because they just want to play in a sandbox with everyone. They're not having that demarcation. And also in the class, we studied the brown eye, blue eye experiment back in Iowa and
Yeah.
how the kids were great playing together until there were stipulations. Okay, the blue eye people only have X amount of time on recess. They can't go into monkey bars. And it's learned behavior. It's
Yeah.
learned behavior. So when we establish those goals, we measure them and reward with bonuses, reward with promotions. That's when those changes take place.
Listen, my husband and I have this, we like to say, how people say, practice makes perfect. And we are like,
Mhm. Perfect.
perfect practice.
Yes.
Perfect. So
Yes.
people are reinforcing some things that maybe weren't as productive as we thought they were. And we were positively reinforcing these in the workplace and creating behaviors that, in the end ended up hurting us a little bit more than they helped us. So, but I think the intention has always been good with human beings. That's how I like to think about the world. I'm an eternal optimist. I have to be, because remember, I create my own dopamine. So
Yes,
I
yes.
redirect my thoughts all the time.
Yes.
So anyway, well, thank you for sharing that. I mean, the conversation is still evolving, just like anything else.
Yes.
Okay, so moving on. You only gave me 30 minutes, and like Parkinson's theory, work consumes the time allotted. So I want to make sure because I really want to know what you have to say. If people are unable to contribute to the future of man and innovation, do you think that AI and robotics could replace the positions of underperformers? Sherry.
I did some research before our conversation, and I looked at Johnny C. Taylor. He is the CEO of the Society of Human Resources Management here in America, where there are 300,000 HR professionals, I believe, globally in this body of professionals. And he said, human resources professionals, let's not focus that much on AI, but let's focus on the lack of knowing AI, the lack of utilizing AI in the HR function. If you're that HR professional, ChatGPT took place November 30th of 2022. It's been over a year now. And for me, with one software that I just implemented, Workable, they can produce my job description. So there's not a person that's writing those. We tweak those once we put that into the system. So HR professionals that refuse to keep up with the time of learning AI and implementing it into their day-to-day functions, they unfortunately can be replaced by the other HR professional who's kept themselves current and able to do multiple things, work smarter instead of harder. So it depends on the industry. Who knows? There may be a robot that can chop up the carrots, or that can count the widgets. But when it comes to that human capital, that person, there's some jobs that may be replaced depending on industry. But for my space HR, it can definitely be if you do not know all the things and able to work smarter.
And not harder. Well, I read something recently, that technology is evolving so quickly and people are not. So it's like it's a unequal evolution. And I think it has a little bit to do with crab in the barrel. I had to throw that in, but it's just unequal. People are holding, they're unleveling the field. And then we're afraid robots are going to take over. Well, only if you let them, because who programs the AI?
That's us.
People.
That's right. That's right. And you know what else Johnny mentioned in his interview? He said, just the statistics and the fact in that we have two problems. One, we have a birth rate problem. Not many people are having 10, 12 kids anymore, right? And secondly, the skills. So the degrees are good, but we have lots of jobs and not enough. We need to be more inclusive. We have 8 billion people in the world, 8 billion. We need to be more inclusive of finding how can I help this willing and able person want to work with the AI? How can we have AI help us to help them, to help all of us? So, yeah.
But making mankind and humanity really at the forefront, making us, the people, the most important thing.
We are the most important thing. And I don't mean to preach right here, but we are the most important. We are made in the image of the true and living God. We have that consciousness. He made us in his image. We have the mind to reason, right? The computer, the AI can only do what we create it to do, what we tell it to do, but it cannot do it unless we tell it. So we will always be the number one and on top.
As long as I'm a little bit of a nerd, but Yoda said, with great power comes great responsibility. So I just think that mankind can, really harness the power of technology responsibly, but it's going to take awareness, and we have to be really, smarter than them. So that means we have to keep evolving at the same pace of this technology. And the brain is really smart as crap, and
It
that.
is.
It's
It is.
crazy. I think we only use like this part, this much.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, what if we were able to evolve where we're using 100% of it?
Oh
Anyway,
my God.
that's my weird stuff. Okay, so I wanted to transition because with technology and all of the changes, last time I talked to you, I was doing a lot of real estate, some nonprofit, and I pivoted. I left pretty much a lot of what I was doing
Okay.
because the call to duty came with my husband's company, Aerospace BD. He, with a lot of conflict going on in the world and technology, I joined him. I'm his VP of marketing or chief vibe officer,
Whoop, whoop.
as I like to call it. But I'm just working with him and supporting him. So with that, how is your company faring to the changing times? It's not
Mhm.
it's not pretty out there. Everybody hates
Mhm.
one another. I bet that, that's something that you are probably part of,
You
and need
know,
to help people understand.
one thing right now, I'm a solopreneur, I think is how you say it. So I'm a team of one, and at the end, one of the last questions, I would like to eventually maybe partner or multiply myself. But right now, I'm a team of one. But I have definitely had to make system upgrades, continuing education to make sure that what I'm recommending to the client, that it is cutting edge. Shout out to Forbes for the article that they published in February of 2024 in terms of what are some sexy benefits that employers need to look into, tap into. There's so many things. Who would think about freezing reproductive, items, or for your pets, or for legal, or for, I mean, there's so many things that are out there. And so just keeping myself current, making sure that my systems are technologically inclined, and I'm staying up with the Joneses when it comes to contracts and doing all the things that my clients can do it on their iPhones and just continue to work, continue to move forward.
Good.
Yes,
Well, that's working one-on-one, and you have 7 jobs like I do. But,
exactly.
in your job as public speaker,
Mhm.
part of being a public speaker is getting out there and being that shininess, but also, you want to make a few people cry. You want to innovate them.
Mhm.
You want to inspire them to
Yes.
do that next thing that they came to do. And
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but when I watch public speakers, you guys are just fabulous stars because a lot of people could never do that. So you understand.
Mhm, mhm.
As smart as people are, getting up on stage is really hard. So, but you can do it. So in that message, just with this
Mhm,
changing world, how
mhm.
has your message changed? I mean, I know
So,
we were just talking about that a little bit,
mhm,
but that
mhm.
was, this is your
Yeah.
time to be a preacher. What do you preach?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Let me tell you. And I want to talk about last week. I was in a symposium online and I was selected to be the spokesperson for my group. And I was called on and I was sharing for my group. And it was a DEI space. It was a DEI space. And two of the examples from the team mentioned um, they mentioned June, Pride Month, and I used the term that I used was for partners. I use uh, um, what's the word?
It'll come to you. This is
The
the
word.
hormones.
So pretty
You
much,
forget.
um, the gentleman came in and he corrected me. He was like, "You don't use." I used an alternative. I said an alternative lifestyle, and the gentleman came in, and and then the facilitator was like, "Oh my goodness." And I instantly took myself off of mute and I said, "My apologies. I have no desire to offend, please educate me on the right verbiage. So that was an opportunity for me to learn. And then the chat blew up. And then I just heard my LinkedIn just pinging people connecting and following. And some of the terms were, what a healthy leader you are.
I like the way you said that.
They were like, you are taking this hot seat so well, on a call of almost 300 people, you're reporting out,
Yeah.
the alternative, thank you, brain, the alternative lifestyle. That's not it. So I learned about non-traditional, even a young lady, shout out to Monica in Kentucky with her organization. And she was like, hey, Tish is having to meet her client where they are. Okay. And
Yeah.
so that's okay. And because of that, just know that we have to take baby steps in this space. So when speaking, I look forward to doing some more professional development in August in Minnesota. But in
Mhm.
those conversations, nobody, and I'm grateful for the kind words you said for those who get up on stage, but no one is perfect. You're right. I just had a brain fart. No one is perfect. Everybody should continually be learning and growing. And
Yes.
that's what I share. This is the new term. Please don't use this. This is how things are evolving. So
Yeah.
just making sure that it's a safe space. It's psychologically safe to teach your client what is happening, what is new. It's okay if you don't know. That's why I'm here. And if I don't know, I'm going to figure it out and we're going to learn together.
Well, right. I mean, it's hard to stay abreast. Just like, I'm also in real estate. So I have a legislative update every year, and the laws are constantly changing. And it's actually my responsibility, because I'm a licensee, to know that that's my responsibility.
Mhm.
So it's our responsibility
Yes.
to stay abreast of things. I
Yes.
mean, it's considerate. And as the world changes, I want to make people feel comfortable. And, I'm also a marketing girl. So,
Yes. Yes.
that it's all in the message. You can
Mhm.
really say anything in a really nice and welcoming and inclusive way. You
Absolutely.
can. I mean,
Absolutely.
you challenged me if you told me, hey, Tish, tell me to go, F off. And I could do it in a way that you're like, I can't wait to do it. I can't wait. But
Absolutely.
anyway,
You
all right.
can.
Now I'm gonna get into something, maybe not controversial, but something that isn't happening in real time.
Let's
Now,
do it.
my son just graduated from University of Maryland yesterday. Thank you.
Congratulations.
I heard Governor Westmore speak, and I was delighted to hear that he
Nice.
focused a lot on that marriage aspect. He really loves his wife, and I just
I
think that's
love
wonderful that
it.
he's promoting that to
Mhm.
these new graduates. But he said
Mhm.
a lot of other things, but that's what I stuck on to.
Mhm,
Of
mhm.
course, I love love.
That's right.
But there was no conflict at that graduation. It was peaceful. It
Mhm.
was wonderful. I
It was
cried my eyes.
beautiful.
But there were a couple of graduations around the country that were canceled due to, protesting. Obviously, we have a lot of war around the country.
Mhm.
Now, I'm only saying that as a precursor because, last time we spoke, we talked about the importance of DEIA,
Mhm.
which is being taught at our colleges all around the country. And, we have the woke generation. But I'm wondering, like, with all of that woke, education we're providing for a lot of money, by the way, as we all know,
Yes.
why are we having hate crimes on our college campuses? Is DEIA really working? So at UNC, they reallocated $2.3 million of funds to public safety and campus police
Mhm.
from DEI
Mhm.
because, that was really what was more important because their students were being, their safety was compromised. They had to
Mhm.
do it. They had no choice. And that was where they took it from. What do you think about, this conflict and the fact that, this generation is not really are we just going through the motions, I guess?
I love the question, Nicole. Loved it, and loved it. And so, in preparing for today, I believe that the only person that we can control is ourselves. And so, any university needs to understand what is their vision, what is their mission. I believe that safety comes first. right? I do believe that. I think everybody wants safety, especially with all the mass shootings that we've seen.
You can't learn unless you feel safe.
Exactly. In addition, I think it should run concurrently. I think it should run concurrently. We want to keep everyone safe in addition to educating on why we want to make sure that DEI is so important. And I have some notes here. I want to make sure for creating inclusive climate, number one, it starts with trust. I don't know how the leaders of the university decided on that decision. They do any focus groups? Did they tap in with all stakeholders? Was it only a board and leadership? Did they tap into the student body? Did they speak with the parents, former alumni, to develop that trust in such a 2 point whatever million? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And they could do a salary, let's say 150 for a director of DEI, and then have those stakeholders choose to do a voluntary committee. They could still get it done, writing some requirements in the curriculum. Secondly, want to make sure again that for different groups, we talked about different stakeholders, but in particular for the employees of the university, understanding what behaviors they're looking for. Because when behavior's modeled, the students can start thinking about it. And then it should be I remember at Howard University, it wasn't a choice. I had to take African American literature. I had to understand African American history. I had to take that class. I had to know how my ancestors came about here in America. It wasn't an option. And there were lots of discourse, especially come from the Caribbean. My experience was different. But I think that there should be some requirement at the university level so that everybody knows. With the war right now that's happening, everybody should have some empathy to show more love and not to perpetuate hate and to continue having that dogma and that rabbit cycle going down the hole. It's not going to help us. And so making sure, as I mentioned before, training, educating, making sure that we're promoting those behaviors and rewarding when individuals are doing the right thing. So I think it should run concurrently. Safety is important, but I think it's a little reactive by not having DEI to support that. That's how you bulletproof your university, have all the cops, have all the shut doors, have everything, right? Physically, tangibly, the people, but you also need to educate your leadership, educate your board, educate your professors, your students, the parents, the alumni. It's all encompassing so that there's a win-win.
Well, last time we saw DEIA as the start. So like everything, it's evolving, and we're seeing what's working and what isn't. So to be continued. We'll have to have a conversation in another year and see where we're at. Hopefully, it's nowhere but up. In the effort of time, I'm going to skip to the last one because this is really what you live your life in this shiny lens. Everybody has their own reality and they see their world the way that they see it. And that's why we project our world onto other people, even though they see it completely different. Once you realize this in your life, everything seems to make more sense, by the way. But since you see it through this shiny lens, what is the future of, just the world itself, HR, people? Sum it up for us.
Yes.
What do you think?
There's so much. And so we talked about having fewer people, lots of jobs, having skills that need to be reskilled. And then we have that population of individuals coming back in, from being incarcerated and coming back into the workforce and being forgiven and given that other chance. So we need to make sure that we be more inclusive, not just DEI, but and as HR professionals. In the past, you had to have a good degree. You had to go to this particular school, and not only did you have to go to this degree, but a particular school, or maybe come from a particular family, or get the internship by someone who played golf. We need to be more inclusive instead of exclusive. We want to make sure that our mental health options are just as attractive as regular health options, because someone can be physically there and mentally not there. So if we
Right.
don't have that balance, we're setting ourselves up. AI is not going anywhere. So we
Mm-mm.
need to coexist and learn how to balance that as well. I see here, I took some notes. In terms of, so that's it pretty much for our people, making sure that we articulate culture, because our generation that knows everything, they're leaving jobs after a heartbeat to work for somebody else whose mission and values really line up with and there's a purpose. So just making sure that we're managing relationships, can articulate the culture, having those skills, whether someone has a degree or needs to have additional skills. And DEI is not leaving just like AI. In terms of shine, my heart's desire is to help clients to not just survive, not just maintain, but to thrive, to soar and beat the status quo when it comes to all things HR, to really want to do and be their best. I can help partner with other HR. I can come in as a consultant, help coach other executives. Shout out to Ryan Daniel in Minnesota, other executives who may want to have or position themselves for other awards, individuals like Judy Blackwell, who want to have that life coaching opportunity to reframe and set themselves up for success. And lastly, continue to grow. It'll be great to have a partner one day. It'll be great to multiply myself and maybe not just physically in Maryland, but who knows, maybe in Texas, maybe somewhere else, so that we can touch and help be the winning solution, the secret sauce for any organization or individual. And of course, increase my power of influence with my speaking opportunities. I would love to continue to speak at larger venues. That's it for me.
Well, you know what you just did? If you say it out loud, you're manifesting it, because you can, it's just like setting a little goal.
Yes.
So I hope you just set that goal for
Yes.
everybody to hear.
Yes.
So when we check in, which I'm going to hold you to it.
Oh, yes. Let's do it 6 months.
DEIA is where you are. So those are going to be our 2 questions.
Yes.
But thank you so much for letting me flip the script with you.
Of course. It's been a blast. I loved it. Thank you so much for preparing. Thank you so much for being true to yourself and for wanting to make sure that we focus and we remember the greatest gift to the world. And that's people, not things, not inventions, not robots. We can still love them. We can still coexist and partner with them. But the greatest asset will forever be the people.
Well, then in that case, I love you, Tish. Thank
Love
you
you
so much.
too. Thank you for watching. Shine with Tish. Until next time, keep shining. Toodles.
Bye.
Bye-bye.